This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.
What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast. This is going to be a fun one because this gentleman has done a lot in his career and he brings a lot to the table. Marcus Bell is one of the top music producers and composers in the industry that has worked with some of the biggest artists such as Nicki Minaj, Katy Perry, Snoop Dogg, and many more. He also produced and composed for some of the most famous films and TV shows. Apart from that, Bell is a successful entrepreneur who wants to help people achieve their goals in life. That's why he created a project called 100 Dayz Challenge in his Wealth and Impact Bootcamp to guide people to the way to success. Marcus, sounds like you've been busy, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. And that is 100 days with a Z.
100 days with a Z. I mean, I guess maybe we can start there, but I'd be curious. How did you get into the music industry? Was this something that you just have always been involved in? Because you worked with some of the biggest names, man. These are pretty impressive resume that you put together.
Yeah, so I've been involved in music literally my entire life. In fact, it started from the womb. So I heard in my family history that they had a radio or, tape player or maybe a vinyl that was right beside the bed. And they were playing classical music, jazz music, soul music into the belly of my mother, right? And so I don't know not having music. And so what that looks like is that music is like breathing for me. The same thing with entrepreneurship. It's like breathing for me. There's so many parallels between music and business and entrepreneurship that when I started my first company when I was 12, a record label, it seemed so natural to me because in creating a record label, there were a few things there, right? So there's an audience, and my audience at that time that I wanted to reach were my schoolmates, right? So because I was doing a lot of performances and I was in the media and so forth, and so I was performing in front of thousands of kids. And so that was my audience, and I was writing songs, and I said, well, I want to get these songs to this audience, right? And that was just the natural thing. If I was writing a song, I'm thinking about someone I'm writing a song to, or I'm expressing something and emotion. Same thing with the business. The business is an expression of something. So like I stand for dignity and compassion for myself. So my businesses are expressions of dignity and compassion, right? For myself and others. And so the music DNA lives throughout everything it is that I do in the world. And I help encourage people that I support, entrepreneurs and train and so forth, to make those connections. What is the DNA that your life is, and making sure that the work activity, the activity of life, is congruous to that. And so that's why I would assert a lot of people are unhappy with their employment, right? Because they may not have done the work of discovering what is really of value that they have inside of them that needs to be expressed. And then the workplace is just an opportunity for that to be expressed when there's an alignment. And so most of the times there's not an alignment. And so, and great organizations create alignment.
Well, I mean, man, I got to start with 12 years old. Are you telling me at 12, you're like, look, I am going to express myself. I am starting a record. I mean, you are wise beyond your years at that point to be able to say, this is what I'm going to bring to my classmates. But that is pretty amazing to know, just like you did before we started the show. You said, who's your audience? What are we talking about today? I want to make sure I'm serving them. So I guess that is your DNA. You know, and you've known since a very young age, I know who I'm looking to serve. This is what I want to get across to them. That's pretty remarkable, man. And it's just something that I think hopefully everyone hears. So tell me, what are your favorite things? And we'll get into the 100 Days challenge, I promise you. But tell me some of the biggest lessons that you learned in the music industry and entrepreneur, which I think you just gave us a huge one, but I'm sure there's a couple more lessons that I cannot wait to hear because again, you've been successful in both.
So here's the thing I would say is that I can't take credit for these ideas, right? I mean, I have some ideas that are original ideas, but at 12 years old, there's little credit that I can take except for that my parents provided an environment that evoked these ideas. They provided the type of support because they noticed something in me that I had no context for, right? They noticed a musical ability. And so being a child prodigy and then having a parent notice that and then support that and extend resources towards that and so forth is, again, I can make that comparison to business, right? And if your products are your children, being able to notice that, wow, this kid has some special performance abilities, and then you start putting resources there to support its growth and so that they can come into its full potential, so that product can come into its full potential. Same thing with human beings, they noticed something in me, and so they created an environment to help me work towards my full potential. And so there was also in place mentorship. So I had a few mentors that also were advising me and they would take me to lunch and say, yeah, so how's it going? Right. And I talk about what I cared about and they say, well, have you considered this? Right. So they were able to help me early on start asking the kinds of questions that would lead me down pathways of activity to do, right? And I didn't accept all that they had to offer, right? Because I also had in my mind, I think I know something here, right? And so, there's some cases where I had to learn the hard way, but the hard way being failure, and those failures being the biggest opportunities for my own growth and development. See, because you can't give somebody, the wisdom that comes from failure. One has to acquire that wisdom inside of themselves in their personal journey. I had to acquire some wisdom from my failures as well as my successes. And that wisdom comes from inquiry, right? When events happen, what do? I assess those events, whether it's a failure or success. What is it that I could have done better? If something is successful, I ask that same question. How can I 10x that? How can I 100x that? How can I 1,000? How can I cryptocurrency it and have it be, 100,000x, right? If this were to be that, what possibilities are there that have not been unearthed? And so I've been asking those questions my entire life. How can I, reach more people, help more people, right? It's the Socratic method. I operate from a Socratic method in life. And so I recommend that people do that. Ask questions and assume that you don't know. I mean, there's some things that you know, Not saying that you don't know anything, not saying I didn't know anything, but there are a lot of things that I don't know. And there's a lot of things that I don't know that I don't know. And so in the I don't know that I don't know space, that's where mentorship, that's where getting connected with people that have wisdom to share, and opportunities for getting wisdom. So like this podcast, right? Being able to plug into some knowledge beyond the I and plugging into the we.
Well, there's one other thing that, again, I don't know you other than meeting you briefly before the show. You have an incredibly infectious laugh. And one of the things that I'm feeling immediately is how amazingly likable you are. Now, I think of the music industry as being somewhat cutthroat and tough-minded business. I'm not saying you can't be a tough businessman, but man, you seem like that gentle soul that you just want to be around. Tell me, brother, is that something that just you have always, that's who you are and that's how you show up, that's your authentic self? Because I want to be around that, but that's not what I think of when I think of the music industry.
Yeah, so there are a lot of narratives about the music industry. Some narratives come from people's pain. Some narratives come from misunderstanding of how the business is constructed. Some narratives come from truth, right? Right? It's true that artists weren't paid, or that there are artists that don't get paid in appropriate proportion to the value that they're creating in the marketplace. It's true that some of the systems in place aren't designed for artists to be profitable, right? But the business can be profitable and the artist not be profitable. So my aim inside of that is, and has been, to help artists and business people create in a space where there's a design that may not be conducive to their well-being. Okay, so when I started working in the music industry, I had a bunch of preconceived notions, right? I didn't know what I didn't know. For example, when I went into my first internship when I was in college at Universal Records, I showed up to the interview with my suit and tie, right? I was ready for business because I had it in my mind. I had this preconceived notion that if you're going to be a person in business, then you need to have a suit and tie. I don't know where I got that from, right? So imagine, if you will, a 9-year-old wearing a suit and tie in school. So I'm in a suit and tie since I had that idea in my mind that, oh, I'm a businessman or business kid. And so businessmen wear suits. So I'm gonna wear a suit to school. And so I used to wear suits to school. So when I was sitting in that interview and I had my suit and tie, the branch manager in Boston of Universal said, I appreciate that you came in here in your suit and tie, but I don't know if you observed in this environment that we wear flip-flops around here. And I looked around and there were shorts and flip-flops and, Crocs and all of that, right? And so there are these preconceived notions that we have going into an environment. And I learned a lot in that internship, and I saw a lot. And so and I got a better understanding of a design, right? Of a design. And so there's a way to be who you are once you understand who you are, right? As a human being, as a person of value, and then recognize in every environment that there are other human beings that are just doing the best that they can with what they have to operate with. Whatever the aims are of the business, the music industry is no more cutthroat than the librarian association or the teachers association or the, whatever business, the pharmaceutical, enterprise area. Like, it's the human beings and what a human being brings to a situation that determines the narrative that the people that are working in the environment carry. And so one of the things that I'm aiming to do in my companies, in my businesses, and my interactions with people is that of upliftment. That is the context that we can do great work, and we can do it in an environment that is healthy, that is supportive of growth and development, an environment that actually makes an impact in the world. And yes, we can make money at the same time as a byproduct of the value that is articulated and communicated in the marketplace. And that is just an extension of what we stand for ourselves and others.
Well, it sounds like you're definitely creating a win-win. And I want to talk about this development, because the 100 Days challenge, from what I understand, DAYZ challenge, from what I understand, that was created, as something to help people create something pretty amazing out of perhaps a failure even, or learning how to create something. So can you tell me, what the heck is this 100 Days challenge? I can't wait to hear about it.
Sure. So I have a course that I've created called Wealth and Impact Bootcamp. And really that course is designed for entrepreneurs and authors and coaches and artists and creatives, visual artists, politicians, influencers, and people that just want to make an impact with their lives. And so I've been running this 6-month boot camp for a while now. And every month I do a webinar, right? And that webinar holds a lot of value, whether it's talking about wealth, whether it's talking about impact, whether it's talking about how to build visibility in the marketplace, all these lessons and wisdom nuggets that I've gained through my journey. I've found a place to synthesize it and put it in a place where people can learn from it and apply it into their lives. And so around the election time, I was preparing for the webinar and I was looking at elections, and I noticed, well, wait a minute, you know what? It doesn't matter what the outcome of the election is, because people can elect themselves, right? You can elect yourself. And so what does it take to elect yourself? Well, if you elect yourself, well, you first have to have a platform. Okay, so what's your platform? And then I looked even deeper and I said, well, wait a minute. What happens when you get elected, right? So again, Socratic method. So what happens when you get elected? Well, Roosevelt created, when the country was coming out of the Great Depression, the first 100 days, right? And this came out of the Depression. This was his response to the Great Depression and lifting the country out of that. And here we are in COVID and we're coming out of, right? So I was like, wow, I saw that parallel and that connection. I said, well, wait a minute. What if I challenge this group of impactors, this group of leaders and people that are aspiring to go for something big? What if I challenge them to 100 days? And so I did that. I challenged the Wealth and Impact Bootcamp community to take on 100 days. And then I created a structure, knowing what I know about psychology and sociology and neuroscience and behavior and high performance and creativity and money and all those things. And I created a system. I systematized my knowledge so that they could take it and apply it. And then this is what happened. So one person came and shared, oh my goodness, I've raised all this money for this organization in Haiti. I'm going to be hopping on a plane next week. And I've never raised money before. What will my mama think about me? Because I never asked anybody for money, but I just raised this money and I'm going to do this project. Another person said, you know what? I'm dealing with some health issues And since I've taken on the 100 Days Impact Challenge, I am doing much better with my Lyme disease, and I'm feeling better. And the doctors are saying, wow, what is it that you're doing? Keep doing that. And then another person said, oh my gosh, I got my finances together finally. And so I start getting all these report backs about the difference that taking on the challenge and the way I designed it made for them. And then I said, well, wait a minute. This is an opportunity to help more people than just in Wealth and Impact Bootcamp. Let's make this available. In fact, let's start the 100 Days Challenge public launch the same time that Biden got in office. So we started the 100 Days Impact Challenge at the same time Joe Biden got into office, started his first 100 days. And so now there are people inside of the 100 Days Impact Challenge with a Z, Days with a Z, that are now, they're on their third challenge. They are stacking challenges. Some have been in the press. Some have created movements. Some have completely transformed their environment and have gotten after their most important aims. And so basically the 100 Days Impact Challenge is all about that. Is there something that you really care about deeply that, excuse me, that you want to get into action on immediately? That there's something that's calling you forth, whether that's a health, a relationship area, a spirituality area, whether that's a business area, whatever area of life that is of importance. What I've created with the 100 Days Challenge is an opportunity, a space, a community, some specialized knowledge, some tapping on the back of your shoulder. Hello, remember, right? All of those things that are needed in order to help elevate you from success to significance. And so that's what the 100 Days Impact Challenge is all about.
Well, I think you picked a pretty darn good time, because obviously it's been a kind of a wild ride, that post 100 days after Biden got elected and more, right? We are just kind of in this constant flux of, man, you hear it often, the world's kind of crazy right now. So tell me about the 100 days, because if I'm cruising and I hit 90 days, but I missed 91, does that mean, shoot, I got to start all over again, brother? Is that how that works? Or do I get that, it's okay, I missed that one? Talk to me about the consecutive, if that is truly a part of that. And the other part is, you mentioned the community. You mentioned maybe the accountability by the tap on the shoulder. Talk a little bit more about that, because obviously anytime you're changing a habit, you're creating, something new, that is so important to have the support and the accountability to support your growth.
Yeah, so the way most challenges are designed is designed from a partial standpoint. Partial, but insufficient for you to really create lasting behavioral impact. So there's a behavioral challenge, then there's like the aim challenge. So there are many different kinds of ways to go about the 100 Days Challenge, right? There's also the impactors inner circle, which is where the mentorship. So like when I was, starting that record label at 12, it wasn't just me on my own. I had mentors that I was asking, how do I set up a business? What is a LLC? What is that, right? Sole proprietorship. I had to learn these things. Like, how do I take money, as a business? Like, what does that mean? How do you brand that, right? So I had to seek specialized knowledge. And so inside of 100 Days Impact Challenge, there's the impactors inner circle, that once someone registers for the challenge, they have the opportunity to join that. And every Monday, I bring on high performers. I've had Olympian athletes. I've had people that have done, 9 figures in their businesses. I've had relationship coaches. I've had ministers. I've had all kinds of people that are performing at a high level. And that becomes a part of it, right? That becomes a part of your 100 days journey, is to be able to access, and I'm able to interact with the participants and and all of that, and they can bring forth questions and all of that. So it's really a big environment and a community where people are cheering you on because they're going at it as well, right? And so sometimes we don't have people that are cheering us on for our most important aims. And so if that is you, then there's an environment where there are some people that will cheer you on. And then there's how do you construct a consequential environment? So that's built in. And then how do you have an accountability plan? I mean, how do you design that? That's designed in there too. So I look at all the different ways that will help produce a phenomenal result from a high performance lens, from a world-class, best-in-class lens, and I've made that available for people through this effort for those that aren't ready for a wealth and impact boot camp yet, right? That aren't to that level where they need that specialized help in creating visibility and how do you use influence and multiply your time and create financial freedom. Some people aren't in that space yet. And so 100 days is a good precursor to, specialized knowledge to be able to elevate like that.
So if I'm looking to join, let's say, and I'm listening to you right now and I'm like, man, I'm in. I look at who Marcus has worked with, look at the companies he's created. I love the word wealth. I love the word impact. You put them together, man, I want to. So what are the requirements to be a part of the 100 Days Challenge?
They would just go to 100 Days with a Z 2021 or 100 Days with a Z 2022. If you're listening to this and it's 2022, if it's 2025 and you're listening to this recording or watching this video or however you're getting this, or you're looking at the transcript, however you're consuming this, if it's 2030, go to 100 Days with a Z 2030 and join. It's $1 a day. And then, there's an opportunity for you to join the Impactors Inner Circle in there. And, whatever that pricing is to gain that deep specialized knowledge and the ability to interact with some celebrities directly on Zoom and all of that. But yeah, it's that simple. They just go to the website and join the community, and they will start to get emails and text messages from me, and workbook and access to a course. And when they join the inner circle, they'll get access to all those interviews and that access to all that specialized knowledge that will support them in their journeys.
$1 a day, you guys. I mean, we're talking $100 to get so much access and then be able to be listening to, you said 9-figure people, you said, really motivational pastors and people that are really moving and shaking. So tell me, how did you decide to create the 100 Days? Was it a specific moment for you? Because did you just say, you know what, I know Roosevelt did this, but it really did an impact for me personally. I personally followed this system and here's what happened. Is there a backstory to that I maybe missed?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. And I've talked about the 100 Days often, and no one's asked me that question. So the way I go about learning something is very much the same way the 100 Days is designed, at least one of the kinds of challenges someone can choose. So when I'm learning a new instrument, for example, right? So, or a new program or a new plugin that I use for production or something like that, or a new system, or like a new concept, right? Like I've been doing a lot of study on, like metaphors, for example, right? So I'm very interested in metaphors because we often live our lives through metaphors. So the way I go about that particular study on metaphors So I get all the books I can get, over 20 books on metaphors. Yeah, I talk to people that are expert in that area, right? I look for everything that I can find, and every single day I get at it. Every single day I develop a habit of study, practice, inquiry, whatever it is for me to learn that thing. And so I've been doing that my entire life, whether it's picking up the saxophone, so it's practicing it every single day, right? Until it just becomes a part of me. When I was learning the piano and I'd be on the school bus, I'd be practicing the piano while I'm sitting there on the school bus. There was no piano there. In my mind, I was moving my fingers as if it were on the piano, right? So it just became a habit. So I can, like right now, I just did a 2-octave major scale, right? Because and I know what that sounds like, right? If you are listening, you can't see. I just did my hands like across the screen, and basically, yeah, because it's so embedded in me because of those practices. And it's the same thing in terms of the design of 100 days. So I'm in the 100 days LinkedIn. I'm doing a 100 days challenge myself right now. I'm in day number 15. I'm in day number 15 of a LinkedIn challenge, and I'm using the 100 days structure for that. And what's happened? Day number 6, I had a post go viral on LinkedIn, right? Because I'm practicing what I'm training people in, right? I am a practitioner. I'm one of those types of people that I like to be a practitioner of the things that I train people in. And so as I'm on LinkedIn every single day and I'm taking the actions, I have experts that I have access to, LinkedIn influencers and so forth, and I'm putting into practice the things that we're training people in LinkedIn Wealth and Impact Bootcamp, right? I'm leading that, but I'm also a participant. And so and I believe in that. I believe in practicing. See, everything that has happened for me in my career and my business has come because I'm operating from a mindset of practice, right? What are the practices that I can put into place that everything else is a byproduct of? Awards, they're a byproduct of practices. Wealth is a byproduct of intentional practices, right? Great relationships are a byproduct of practices. And so I'm a practitioner. And for those that are listening, if you gain anything from this conversation, is to begin to know yourself as a practitioner. And 100 days is one of those tools and vehicles that I use and others are using that are doing incredible work in the world to become a practitioner.
So I want to break down that word for a moment, just because you are such a practitioner, just because you have achieved so many amazing things being a practitioner, putting in the work, doing the practice. If we go back to Iverson and we're talking about practice and he goes on the whole thing about practice. So often people have negative ideas or connotations behind, I don't love to practice, but I love the games. But what I'm hearing is you have a love of that practice. That is you getting to the game, but you enjoy every step of the way. Can you talk about that, man? Because again, you obviously have a thirst of knowledge. You seek to get better at various things, whether it's an instrument, LinkedIn, a challenge. I mean, you have this yearning to get better. But for those that struggle with practice, the idea of practice, can you talk about how you have been able to always be so inspired through your practicing?
Yes, there are a couple of ways I want to answer this, but I will start with this, that, and I didn't say it, someone else said this, and maybe it was one of the people in the impactor inner circle that came. I think it was maybe one of the Olympians that came. And if that is the case, whoever it was said that the game is won in practice. right? The game is won in practice, because how you play a game is an expression of that practice, whatever the practice is. And so, yeah, so when I'm in a recording studio working on a song, that song is already a hit in the studio. The world just doesn't know it yet, right? So so the context is that this is going to be a hit. And so if the context is a hit, then inside of the studio environment where we're recording and you know, I'm seeing something in that artist that I'm working with greater than what they may be able to access themselves, and I'm able to see that and then help generate that in a recording environment as a practice, and then get them into a repetitious pattern as they're delivering on the microphone, where they start to forget things and they get into the flow state, and all of a sudden it's just them, the microphone, and like their emotions, and the music is coming through them to grab an audience in an emotional place, because they've left themselves and they've entered that flow state that practice helps you get to, right? So there's micro opportunities for practice, and I use those micro opportunities to bring out the greatness of people in the environment, where you're out of your head and you're into your heart and your emotions and expression. And then, you know, everyone can feel it. As soon as you hit the playback button and you're hitting notes that you never hit before, you're singing phrases that you've never sang before, and you're evoking feelings that have never been felt before for your audience, then all of a sudden you've entered the zone. And that zone can be entered into on command if you develop getting to that zone as a practice. And then everything else becomes a byproduct of that. And so, so practice is a underutilized tool for most as a tool. Now, most people are practicing something, right? They're practicing something. They're practicing social media, right? Or they're practicing TV. They're practicing, oh, well, every day I turn on the television, right? Every hour I'm checking my phone. They're practicing something. Now, you can practice that, or you could practice something that is going to benefit humanity, that's going to benefit you, that's going to benefit your family, that's going to benefit your income production, right? So you can transfer that practicability that we all have, right? We're all always practicing something, and be intentional about what we're practicing, and have it be something that's going to produce wealth and impact. And that's what this is all about.
And I'll be remiss if I don't ask, just because what he said, you guys, we talk about your mindset matters. He said before it ever gets out to the world, he already knows it's going to be a hit. He already knows, like, there's no doubt in your mind. What I'm hearing, Marcus, is you are so intentional that this is what I'm going to produce. It's not even a sliver of a doubt in your mind. And I'm not saying you've never had doubts. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying as you are producing, as you are practicing, you've already put that energy out into the world. This is what I'm going to achieve as I'm doing it. Is that a fair assessment? Because again, this is one thing I try to impart on all my clients. Like, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And I heard you say, I know this is going to be a hit before note one has even been produced. It's a hit. Is that kind of where your mindset goes?
That is exactly where my mindset goes. And it's not coming from naivete, right? It's coming from, I figured out a secret. So, and I train people in the secret. And so, for example, I just launched a course. It was a 6-figure launch, right? My first 6-figure launch of a course, and it's a beta course, right? And it produced 6 figures. Well, when we were designing the course, it was no question in my mind that it was going to do that, right? Because, and it could have not done that, but that just, let's say it failed to, like, nobody wanted it. No one was interested. Doesn't mean that it's still not a 6-figure course or a 7-figure course. It just means that it's maybe not the right timing, it's not the right audience for it. Maybe there was something missing in the marketing and the messaging. Maybe something was missing that needs to be put in for it to become that. Same thing with a song. You're in a recording studio and it's a hit, and then maybe something is missing. Maybe it's not the right singer, right? You think about the songs that have become hits, that it was a hit song, but it was just looking for the right singer, right? So look at the greatest level of all, right? It was looking for Whitney Houston to be the massive hit that it became, right? And so you may have an idea that's just waiting for the right singer. You may have a business idea that's just waiting for the right audience. And so it's just having clarity of your intention. And yes, there's a mindset. And the fortunate thing is that you can't just do it yourself, right? So there's you knowing that something has the possibility of being significant in the world. And then there's developing the skills to inspire others to believe the same thing that you believe about that thing. And that's a skill. And that's something that can be practiced. Practice articulating and communicating your value to people and your values and your vision, right? And so once you start doing that, then you start organizing a world, an environment, thoughts, communications, ways of being and acting and doing that support that outcome that you saw or that you believed to be possible, that no one else could see, that you had to inspire and evoke and put forth in the environment, that possibility, and turn that possibility into something that is real, is a skill and a practice. And so that's one of the things I had to get good at. I had to get good at communicating that what I thought was a hit was a hit. So I remember the first hit I had in Japan that went number one. Actually, this was actually in Korea. And it was a song that was written in English. And we're in a recording studio. And I'm with the collaborators, and it's a rock song, right? So I'm working on this rock song, and I came up with this hook I did. Yeah, 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 yeah. Right? I see it coming. Right? And it was supposed to be for a female, like, rock angst thing. And we're in the studio, and I said, you know what? I think this is gonna be a big hit internationally. This could be a big hit in Japan, right? Even though we were doing it in English. So then, fast forward from that moment in the studio that I said that, one of the collaborators called and said, hey, there's a star in Korea that wants to do the song, and they're translating it into Korean. And so the song became a #1 song for Park Jung-ah in Korea. Right? So it was already a hit. So when I got the call, oh, it was a #1 in Korea, it was already there. That was, which song was it? That was hundreds of songs ago, right? Like, that seed was already planted in the environment. And so whatever happened that had the opportunity to come to light, and whatever happened that had people believe in it and have that possibility realized into the world, is what life is all about for me. It's all about that.
Well, really, I mean, look, believe the amount of iterations or different versions that happen, but the belief in getting that vision. I love that. I love that we had that last part, because it's so true, man. And what you said, whether it's in music or in business, just like you said before, there's so many parallels. Marcus, you bring so much to the table. I could literally ask you questions for days, man, but where can people connect with you online? You said you're doing some stuff on LinkedIn, but where's the best place to connect with you so they can get a little bit more Marcus Bell in their life?
Thanks for asking that question. So right now, as I'm doing my LinkedIn challenge, LinkedIn is the best place to get me. And if you go into LinkedIn and you type in Marcus Bellringer, you should see me looking like this. if you can see me, I have the black hat, right? It's me. And you can reach out, follow me there. I've opened it up. So if you become a follower of me on LinkedIn, you'll be able to message me, right? LinkedIn allows that. I have limited capacity in terms of my connections there, but in terms of followers, just like some of my collaborators that have millions, feel free to follow me, and then you can message me as a follower, and I will respond, especially during this 100 days LinkedIn challenge that I'm doing on myself, because I'm on it like every single day.
Well, man, keep doing it because you're helping so many people. I love it. I can't wait to check out the 100-day challenge myself, 100 days, challenge myself.
With the Z. Yeah.
And with the Z. But man, I just appreciate it. I appreciate you being here and bringing so much. I didn't know where this conversation was going to go, but you brought so much value to the table. I love the practitioner part. I love so much what you said about believing and creating, setting your intention. So much of what we talk about, and you're doing it, man. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And again, if for whoever's listening, take on being a practitioner with intention, and you can make an impact with intention. And if anything that I've said resonates with you, feel free to reach out to me. If Wealth and Impact Bootcamp is something that you might be interested in, you can apply for that program. If that speaks to you and you really want to make an impact in the world, just go to wealthandimpactbootcamp.com. And then, regardless, if you're a listener and you got some value from this, let me know on LinkedIn, right? Just reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, hey, I heard, something, feedback from my audience is very important to me. And I know that's important to you too, and pass it on, share the value that you receive so that it can spread beyond just this conversation.
Yeah, man, let's go create more wealth and impact in the world. 100%. Marcus, thank you, man, for being here. I really do appreciate you and the way you show up in the world. You guys, look, he said so many amazing things. That practitioner part, he said, look, you are practicing at any point, whether you're watching TV, you're practicing, you're on social media, you're practicing. There was so much value from that conversation. I hope you guys heard it and reach out to him because he does bring so much. And I want you to remember to continue to transcend in life. Your mindset does matter. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great one. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.